If I just been one step faster, I could have gotten that ball. Or, if I were just a bit quicker, I could have gotten past him and made a break for it. Have you ever felt that kind of regret? When that regret keeps happening, you might think, I need to get faster and start running hard or even try some of these drills. But if you don't understand the 5 key points I'm about to share, the precise principles of lateral movement, you'll just waste a lot of energy. Real speed and agility will remain out of reach, and you'll end up giving up thinking, I guess I just can't do it. You have to be born with it. You don't have to be born with it. You don't have to be born with it. Anyone can get faster. When you see those people who make you think, wow, they're a natural, they're so fast, you'll find that even if they can't explain it in words, they've learned the principles through constant movement. Their bodies just know this is how you move fast. Their bodies just know this is how you move fast. Conversely, if someone explains those principles to you and says, just run like this, and you put that into practice, then anyone can get faster. Not that you'll get as fast as Usain Bolt, of course. It takes 10 minutes to watch this video. Then just invest 30 minutes a day to practice the movements you see. These principles apply to any sport you enjoy, soccer, tennis, basketball, baseball, you name it, you can get faster. This is the 8th part of our series on how to run faster. We've talked about getting faster when running straight ahead, like in a marathon, which many people enjoy. We've also covered how to accelerate quickly from a dead stop, like in a 100-meter dash. We've gone over the steps for quick changes of direction and even deceleration for stopping your forward momentum. This time we're focusing on lateral movement. I showed a few examples at the beginning of the video. And when you're actually playing sports, this type of movement is incredibly important. It's obviously crucial in sports like tennis or badminton, where you're constantly moving side to side. But it's also true for basketball or soccer. When you're facing an opponent, you need to break past them, right? In those situations, lateral movement is also extremely important. That's why when you see these athletes train, they're always doing drills with cones or agility ladders. Those exercises are a constant staple. But for those of you who are watching right now, no matter how much you practice and no matter how many times someone yells, move faster from the sidelines, you probably just feel more rushed without actually getting any quicker. And that's because you don't know the mechanics of these 5 steps: the split, gravity, crossover, shuffle steps, and cornering. For each of these, if you just know a few key points to focus on, you'll be able to perform the movements comfortably. I'm not going to give you vague advice like just move your feet faster. I'll explain things clearly so you understand exactly how to use this part and have that, so that's how I'm supposed to use it moment. Let's slowly go over these concepts. First is the split step. This is so important that I dedicated an entire chapter to it in a previous video. For the full details, please refer to that video. But to recap briefly, you lightly jump straight up and then land with your feet spread wide. That's the split step. At the moment you land, you need to feel like you're pressing firmly into the ground with the balls of your feet, especially the metatarsal head of your big toe. If you land with your feet too close together or on your heels or the outside of your feet, your movement after the step will be delayed. This happens very often. To move with agility after a split step, you must remember to push off the ground with the metatarsal head of your big toe. You must remember to push off the ground with the metatarsal head of your big toe. The second is the gravity step. As the name implies, gravity. This step is all about making the most of gravity. So how can we use gravity effectively? There are 2 things you need to focus on. The first is your upper body. You need to slightly lean your body in the direction you want to move. This creates momentum in the direction you want to go without you having to force it, but that alone isn't quite enough. To use the force of gravity even more powerfully, the second thing is your legs. You lift the leg you're moving with and pull it in the opposite direction of your intended movement. It sounds a little complicated, doesn't it? Let's look at an example together. If you need to move to the left, you pull your left foot toward the right. And if you need to move to the right, you pull your right foot toward the left. Just by doing this, without any extra effort, your body will generate momentum to move either left or right. The key to this gravity step is your pinky toe. You need to support your weight on the outside of your foot toward your pinky toe. But it's not just about support. You have to actively push off the ground hard with that pinky toe to generate propulsion. And once you've pushed off and your foot leaves the ground, the next movement is extremely important. You need to lift that leg high enough. This is where the crossover step becomes crucial. Third, the crossover step. The leg that pushes off the ground will lift off the floor. And once it's in the air, you need to lift it high enough. Crossover. As the name suggests, it means crossing your leg over your torso and pelvis as you lift it. When you do this, you're not just lifting your leg inward, your pelvis and torso also need to twist through a wide range of motion. This is where your core muscles, which support your pelvis and torso, come into play. The strength of these core muscles is also very important. You need to bend your knee enough to lift your leg properly. If you don't, your foot will drag on the ground and you won't be able to achieve a wide enough stride. So, twisting your pelvis and torso like this is also very important. Next, the 4th step is the shuffle step. This is a bit different from the crossover step where you lift your leg across your body. With the shuffle, your entire body stays facing forward. You just move your legs to the side, so only your direction of travel is lateral while you continue to look ahead. The key point here is something I also mentioned with the split step. It's the metatarsal head of your big toe. You need to push off the ground with this part to move your legs out wide, just like this. Finally, the fifth step is cornering. While it's not a purely lateral movement, cornering is still extremely important when you need to run out to the side. You have to lean your body enough to the side, so you naturally move in the direction of that lean. You'll need strength in the side of your body to support that lean, but you also need to focus on the outside of your foot on the side you're leaning toward. Remember when we talked about the gravity step, I mentioned the pinky toe side? It's very important to support your weight on that part. All right, so we've briefly gone over the steps. You might be thinking, okay, I get that these steps exist, but what do I actually need to do? Juman. So I'm going to discuss several different sports scenarios. By analyzing these movements, you'll gain the perspective to see, so that's why this was important. So that's how the steps I mentioned are applied in these situations. And this is really important because once you understand this, when you're actually in a game, you'll be able to see, okay, his body is moving like this, so to catch him, I need to move in this direction. Your ability to predict will become much, much faster. It's not just about you getting faster. You'll be able to watch your opponent's movements and make predictions based on that evidence, which will inevitably improve your performance. So be sure to watch this content to understand how you should move. It's also a chance to learn, since my opponent is moving this way, I need to get over there quickly. So please don't skip and watch all the way to the end. Let's start with soccer, a sport many of you play. In soccer, you generally run over relatively long distances. So you're often moving forward quickly, more so than sideways. But in crucial situations, when you're facing an opponent, lateral movements become more frequent and more important. Unless you chip the ball over their head and run past them, you can't just charge straight forward when an opponent is right in front of you. And if it's not a good time to pass to a teammate, you have to get past the opponent on your own. That's when the split step plays a huge role. If you need to run to the left, you first extend your right leg out to generate the force to propel your body to the left. Conversely, when you're defending an opponent who's trying to get past you, you need to watch for this motion to figure out, he's trying to go left. So when you're on defense, instead of just watching the ball, you should really focus on watching the opponent's feet to see if they move to the left or to the right. If they extend their left leg out wide, it usually means they're going to the right side. You need to notice that, judge their direction, and then take action to block them. These kinds of movements also appear quite a lot in basketball. In basketball too, there are many lateral movements in one-on-one situations. Here, you use the gravity step to first shift your center of gravity, then use a crossover step to take a long, powerful first step to break through. But a common mistake here is that instead of pulling your leg in to propel yourself forward, you extend your leg out in the direction you want to go and plant it. This actually acts as a brake on the speed you're trying to build. So you should be careful not to do this. Now, if you want to move in a certain direction, for example, to the right, you could extend your right foot forward to bait your opponent, then stop and move the other way to the left. That's one way to use a fake. However, when you need to move quickly, you have to remember to use the gravity step, pulling your foot in to break through in that direction efficiently. Conversely, if you're defending an opponent and they extend a leg forward to move, you should check that and realize they might be faking to go the other way. Developing the eye to determine your own movement based on your opponent's motion is the key takeaway here, so please don't miss it and be sure to remember it. Next up is tennis. Tennis in particular involves a lot of lateral movement. The split step, I'm sure many of you have heard of it. At the moment the opponent hits the ball, you do a small jump, spread your legs, and land on the metatarsal heads of your big toes. Then, if you have to hit a ball that's far away, sometimes you even pull in the leg on the side you're moving toward before you land. This is the gravity step I mentioned earlier. After that, your leg crosses over your torso, your whole body twists, and it becomes a crossover step. So when you're about to hit a shot, you need to extend your leg out far and plant your heel to stop your body. This is also called a plant step. I mentioned this in the previous video on deceleration. Referring to that video might be helpful. So after hitting a shot, you use a shuffle step to slowly move sideways, watching your opponent's movement as you try to return to the center of the court. So even if we just talk about the parts excluding cornering, you need to be able to perform these 4 types of steps freely and fluidly in tennis. If you don't and just move your feet quickly without a plan, you won't be able to move properly in the direction you want. And when you hit a shot, you'll keep moving your feet, hitting from an unstable position, which inevitably makes you very unstable. Now, shall we move on and talk about badminton? It shows a slightly different pattern from other sports. First, since the court itself isn't that wide, even for a ball that goes out to the side, you can usually cover a significant area of the court by moving just one step. Because of that, you don't need to move that far. Basically, you need a good split step. After pushing off with your big toe, you extend your leg out to the side to plant it. That's the plant step. Then you pull your leg in using a gravity step to return to your original position. In baseball too, lateral movement is important. When you're a runner on base, you check if the pitcher is going to pick you off, and then you inch sideways. When you judge they're not going to pick you off, you suddenly dash sideways to steal a base. Or if the batter gets a decent hit, you advance one more base. If you're going from first past second to third, you have to run in a curve when rounding second base, not a straight line, to run stably. So I've briefly talked about how to create these lateral steps for each sport. If you just understand these steps and their mechanisms and practice, you'll improve quickly. But when I look at people who exercise, many don't spend time building the body needed to play their sport well and without injury. For example, soccer players might just do some light body and shoulder rotations, rotate their ankles, and then jump right into a game. But for those of you watching this video, you're probably not like professional athletes who manage their bodies regularly. You just work all day sitting or standing in a bad posture and then suddenly move strenuously. Especially for the lateral movements I talked about today, if you do a few supplementary exercises to create more powerful performance without injury, you can improve much faster and exercise without getting hurt. I'll briefly guide you through those as well. Today, I've talked a lot about two parts of the foot. I said you need to use the little toe side and the big toe side well. You need to use the inside and outside of your foot well. To do this well, I recommend an exercise where you support yourself on one leg and then jump to the left or conversely to the right. If possible, when you jump, try to make the movement cover the widest possible range. If you need to move outward, you should jump by putting force on your little toe. And if you need to move inward, you should push off with your big toe. But the act of jumping can actually be quite strenuous for many people. For those who have some discomfort in their feet or knees. For those of you who find it a bit difficult to do jumps, you can place a thin mat under one side of your foot, either the outside or the inside. Or you could fold a towel to make it a bit thick, place it under your foot while standing on that leg, and then lightly bend and straighten your knee or slightly bend and straighten your upper body. Try this kind of supplementary exercise. You'll feel more force going into your foot than you might expect. And after doing this movement, you'll feel that your foot has become much more stable. All right, the next important part after the feet is your core muscle. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of movements where you move your body to the left or right. Situations where you twist your torso strongly or situations where you have to hold steady even while twisting. To exert those forces well, you need to have core stability. You've probably heard the term core quite a lot, right? But when people think of the core, they often just think of exercises like the plank. Instead, try walking while holding a weight in one hand like this. Because of the weight, your body will want to tilt to the side. To hold it upright, you use the muscles on the side of your core, like the obliques or the quadratus lumborum. These muscles generate a powerful force, which allows you to exert strong forces when you're moving sideways. I could talk a lot about which muscles are important or what kind of training is good, but what's really important is understanding the exact mechanism. So first, I hope you focus on understanding the correct method and then exercising. Regardless of the sport, speed and agility are crucial. Just by improving these, your performance can improve tremendously. In this video, I did cover some pretty important points. However, it's a bit difficult to cover everything related to overall speed and agility. The video would probably become incredibly long. So I've prepared a free online training video so you can actually follow along with the movement slowly and realize, so this is why I was slow. For more details, please check the pinned comment. And if you're someone who wants to gain faster, more powerful strength to improve your sports performance, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel.